Smeg's new coffee machine might be the best one they've ever released. But there's a catch. Let's check it out. G'day mate, my name's Ryan and I want to take a look at Smeg's new Mini Pro espresso machine. It's not yet released, but we can talk about it still and I can tell you whether it's still going to be an awesome fit for you and your home. Smeg are on this massive campaign to really up their game when it comes to home baristas. And so they want to make sure that you not only get a fantastic looking, great quality machine, but also a companion grinder. And so we're going to talk about the EMC02. Now, on the surface, it does look a little bit like their automatic bean-to-cup coffee machine. It's the same sort of shape and design. And Smeg are known for really high-end kitchen appliances, except I've never really loved their espresso machines. Like, they are always expensive. Just like they've spent all their budget on beautiful design and aesthetics, and then forgot to actually build quality products, because the machines all look stunning with their 1960s style aesthetic and matching colors to whatever your kitchen is. But whenever you get to play on them, they kind of let me down. They're just like cheap plastic. They're not as rubbish as, say, like your Kmart and your Walmart sort of brand appliances, but they are like expensive, cheap products. So you never really feel like you're getting a good value. And they're kind of banking on people believing that their products are all high end, when in fact the espresso machines are not. But a few years ago, Smeg actually purchased one of the oldest Italian machine manufacturers in the world, La Pavoni. And I interviewed them, and you can watch that interview here if you want to watch it afterwards. I interviewed them and asked them, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Because the worry is when these huge appliance companies buy such a beautifully well-known and well-respected brand like La Pavoni, that they kind of trash them, shelve them, or just butcher them. La Pavoni promised me that it wasn't going to go down like that the La Pavoni brand was going to get a little bit of the Smeg touch, and the Smeg going to get a little bit of the La Pavoni touch. So when Smeg announced this new machine, I thought it's a great step in the right direction to really compete with those other well-known brands already established in the marketplace. But is it enough? Well, I'm not 100% sure. But this Mini Pro not only looks sexy, it actually looks very solid. And you can see because it's got an E61 style, and I haven't confirmed this yet, but I believe this is an E61 type espresso machine, which is a very classic, traditional Italian style machine. And you can see from the images, it definitely looks like one. I haven't yet confirmed if it is. But it also means that you can steam milk and extract your espresso simultaneously, which for a lot of people is an absolute deal maker. So they have kept that traditional Italian look with the group head, but they've added in a nice brushed aluminium faceplate and also some nice colors on the side. It comes in a green, a white, and a black so far, probably more colors down the track. It also has a 15-bar pump, which means it's not going to choke like some of the small appliances when you grind your beans too fine. It'll still push it through, even if you get a slightly over-extracted coffee. A lot of those other small appliances, the moment you go a little bit too fine, nothing comes through. So at least with this 15 bars, you'll get 9-bar extractions at the front, and it can go above that if you really need to, because maybe you ground your coffee too fine. So this Mini Pro coffee machine is not only super sexy, but it's also a very solid machine. And firstly, it's got a commercial 58mm chrome-plated brass portafilter and group head, which is standard, but a lot of these appliances have 54mm. They're not really commercially graded. This is probably the first prosumer machine that's really going to deliver exceptional espresso. And that's just because it's an E61 type coffee machine. What is your preference? Do you like this style of coffee machine, or do you prefer a traditional Italian espresso? I want to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment in the section below. And if you haven't already subscribed, tap that subscribe button. Bloody awesome. Thanks, mate. Now, some of you are probably asking, well, what is an E61 and why do I care and why is it so special? Well, the E61 is an old technology that was invented in the 1960s, 61 to be exact, but it's tried and tested, and a lot of classic Italian machines have that. And it looks like an upside down tuber. A lot of these E61s were heat exchange, which means that you've got one big main boiler with a tube that runs up the middle, and that tube runs the water through to your extraction, and the big boiler is building up lots of hot water and pressure for your steam. So you can do your coffees at the same time as steaming milk, which is a big bonus, as well as it has a mechanical lever on the side, which if you want to get into that tactile feel of really making a classic Italian espresso, and you have to lift that lever up and then you get your extraction. And as a little built-in bonus, you actually get to play around with pre-infusion times as well, which if you're interested in playing with a bit of profiling and taking your coffee a little bit more advanced, then you have that ability there. There wasn't an intentional part of the design, but it sort of has become quite a standard practice now with a lot of these little E61 type machines. So that's why you might be interested in E61. The one thing that I do want to caution newbies to is that the E61 group head has a big brass part here at the front, and that can get very hot. You'll notice in a lot of the pictures they don't have it there, but there's an actual little sticker that sits on the front saying caution, gets very hot, and you can actually burn yourself quite easily. So that's something to take into consideration. But also, if you haven't got into coffee yet and you're looking for that first machine to buy and you know the Smeg brand and you like that sort of design aesthetic, there's also a lot of smart features in this coffee machine that will help you. So if you don't want to play around with pre-infusion and profiling a little bit, you can just press one of the buttons. It's got a single and a double shot. It'll drop the volume of water needed to get a single cup of coffee or a double cup of coffee, so that if you're just wanting to sort of understand a little bit about how coffee works, there's that there for you too. Now, getting back to the machine itself, if you're just new to coffee machines and you don't really understand anything about machines at all and you don't want to be playing around with pre-infusion or messing around with the mechanical lever, don't worry, because this has some buttons on it, so you can just press 1 or 2 shot and you'll get your volumetric water dose pumped straight from the machine into your cup, so you won't have to worry about how much of a manual extraction or how much you need to extract your coffee. Just does it all for you as well. Although it is always something that I recommend people do is just learn a bit about coffee, understand why your coffee tastes the way it does and why it might not be to your liking or why it might be really sweet in some places, because the more information you have, the better you can get a better result tailored to what you actually want. So manual is the way that I always go, because I just feel like you're looking at every shot. And this is a mindfulness thing anyway. You're watching every shot and you're seeing it. And then at the end of it, you get to taste that and see if it's on par with what your taste expectations were. But as I said, this machine has enough smarts in it. If you just want to press the button and get your dose of coffee, it has that too. And you can also play around with the pre-infusion on that volumetric button as well, but it only goes from 0 to 4 seconds, meaning you can either turn it off or you can have a 4-second pre-infusion, which again, if you don't know what pre-infusion is, it's just allowing the water to saturate that coffee bed without applying pressure. And then after that 4 seconds, you'll get that 9 bars of pressure pumping onto the coffee to extract all those gorgeous oils. And it just makes for a more even extraction and less channeling and less sort of confusing flavors like bitterness and muddiness and all of those sorts of things. It's a slightly advanced version of just regular press a button, get a coffee. And I like the big LCD display on the side there next to the big word Smeg across there. Now, Smeg is always a weird word because I always associate it with a naughty word. What the Smeg? But the LCD is not just for the pre-infusion. It's got lots of helpful information. It has a timer display. It shows you the temperature. You can actually play around with the temperature as well. And it shows you whether your steam wand is set to produce steam or water. Yeah, that's right. You have to produce the water out of the steam wand, which I always think is weird and clunky. Yes, it's like the old Rancilio Sylvias. Surely in this day and age, you can have a little bit more money to put a valve on the side for your hot water. Maybe not, but just, I don't know, putting your cup underneath to fill it up with water from your steam wand just feels awkward to me, especially when the coffee machine is aiming to be that high-end machine. Now, you can play with the temperatures. Again, this is more of an advanced and probably is going to be a bit of overkill for a lot of you. You can change the temperature of the water from 90 degrees Celsius up to 100 degrees Celsius. And that really depends on what sort of coffee you're using. If you're using a light roast or a dark roast or a medium roast, you can play around with those and it produces different flavors in your coffee. But for the majority of you, just set it to 95 and that's pretty much all you're going to need and probably all you're ever going to need if you're just getting started in coffee. don't get confused by all the different variables on this machine. Now, you can also change it from Celsius to Fahrenheit, and so that display is on the machine as well. Very easy. And size-wise, it's a pretty tight-looking little machine. Like, it's only 22 centimeters wide. I think it's 400 deep and about 350 high. So it's pretty tight little machine, giving lots of bench space for other things like your grinder and the other accessories that you might need. And I think this is good, but the one downside is that it is a slightly smaller tank for your water. So it's only a 1.7 litre tank, which I would have liked to have seen on this sort of machine, and maybe a 2.5 litre tank. That's pretty standard on a lot of the Lapavoti type machines and other E61 machines of this sort. So a little bit longer, but it's not huge. It just means that you're going to have to fill it up a little bit more often than some of the other machines. And you're still going to be able to brew a bunch of different lattes and cappuccinos and espressos for yourself. So you're not going to have to replace it every time. Like, say, the Breville Bambino, which is a 1.4 litre, and you pretty much can make 5 coffees from it, and then you've got to refill it. So overall, I think this is a huge leap for Smeg, and I'm excited to see where they push this brand and how much more of the Lapavoti stuff comes into it. The catch, like I said at the beginning of the film, is that it's going to cost you about $1,700 US, which in Australia is going to be somewhere like $3,500. And I think for that price, you're looking at other machines out there on the market which have already got well-established espresso machine quality brand names for themselves, and they are going to be filled with more features, better functions, and probably better servicing. I'm not sure about the servicing in terms of Smeg, but yeah, certainly these are going to be not very competitive in their pricing. Still, if you like the Smeg brand, you like that look, and you want something that actually makes a good espresso, this is the machine. Anyway, I hope you like this video. I'd like to do more first looks at machines coming in the future. So let me know in the comments below what machines you know that are coming up there, and I'll do some research. I saw one of you said about the Meticulous. I'm really keen to look at that as well, because a lot of you have invested already in the Kickstarter campaign and want to know where this machine is at and is it going to deliver. I could do that. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you're wanting to see a video on that as well in the comment section below. But until then, I'm Ryan, your coffee coach, and as always, enjoy your brew.